Well, the Big Beautiful Bill represents a substantial investment in agriculture and rural America. In this week's Champions of Rural America, we review what it holds for American energy independence. Congressman Nick Begich of Alaska joins us now. Congressman, thank you so much for your time. President Trump, he's been pushing executive proposals for America's energy and mineral security. Maybe you could speak to the provisions in the bill related to Alaska that's going to help keep America energy independent.
It's a great question. You know, there is so much in the One Big Beautiful Bill Act for Alaska and really for the rest of the nation. When you talk about energy security, it's so important, not just that we drill today, but that we're exploring for drilling tomorrow. We've got nearly 30 million acres set aside in the One Big Beautiful Bill in Alaska for new exploration and development of oil and gas resources. That's in the 1002 area of ANWR. It's in the National Petroleum Reserve, Alaska, and it's in an area of Alaska called the Cook Inlet. All of these areas are highly prospective for energy, going out for decades. In Alaska, we know we've got 35 trillion cubic feet of natural gas, but the USGS estimates that that number could be up to 250 trillion cubic feet of natural gas. That's a tremendous resource. True, it's great for the state of Alaska, but it's really good for the rest of America as we seek to achieve energy dominance for decades to come.
Bring this down, Congressman, to farmers' benefit. How do you see these provisions really benefiting our farmers across the country?
You know, there's so many provisions for farmers and businesses generally, but for farmers specifically, we saw a dramatic increase in the exemption for the estate tax, something that farmers have been asking us to do here in D.C. for quite some time. We also saw an improvement in the price floors for support for farmers as they seek to continue to compete in an international market. We've seen international players in agriculture who are overly subsidized, and they're undercutting our farmers' prices. We want to make sure that they remain competitive and can continue to invest in their farms for the benefit of the American people.
And not only our farmers, but of course, rural America across the board in communities as well. You see this really generating billions in new revenue, creating jobs across the board, don't you?
You really do. You know, at the end of the day, we're trying to bring domestic production back. And one of the ways that we're going to do that is accelerating the business benefit of making significant capital investments. Right now, under the Big Beautiful Bill, business owners will be able to immediately expense off items that normally would take 5, 10, or even up to 30 years to fully expense through depreciation. We want to make sure that people get the full benefit of making an investment today, so that they can start to generate cash flows from that investment without being overly taxed. That's, we believe, going to help supercharge the U.S. economy, allow businesses to hire more, and allow us to be more self-sufficient and less reliant on places like China.
Well, Congressman, also, of course, we speak a lot about minerals, our reliance on China for our strategic and critical minerals. This bill has provisions to streamline America's access to these important minerals. Speak to how that's going to work.
You know, at the end of the day, we have the resources that we need in the United States. We don't need to be reliant on Chinese supply chains when it comes to minerals. And in many cases, what we've learned is that China has obtained a pure, complete, 100% monopoly over critical minerals that we need for industry and for national defense. You know, Alaska has 49 of our nation's 50 critical minerals. They're on the critical minerals list in economic quantities. All we've got to do is unlock the ability for our miners to go out there and mine. We also need to make sure that we have a favorable investment climate for the next step, and that's refining and processing of those minerals. And we're working on making investments to do just that through the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. So we're looking at the full and complete supply chain. I think this bill is transformational. Of course, this is the beginning. It's not the end of all the work that we're going to be doing in this Congress to advance the America First agenda. I'm excited to be a part of it. I'm excited about this bill, and I think we've got a lot to celebrate.
Well, Congressman, of course, we want energy independence. How do you see Alaska really striking the right balance? Energy independence, conserving the natural environment. Maybe you can speak to that a little bit. I always feel, especially out west with the Western Caucus, that is always a line that you guys often speak about.
It's so important, in order to have a sustained resource economy, it's got to be a responsible resource economy. And we have a very strong track record in Alaska of responsible resource development. I think sometimes we forget just how large Alaska really is and how small the footprint is when we're talking about resources. We have a 700-mile pipeline that has been operating in Alaska for more than 50 years. It's got a strong track record. And we'll put our regulations in my home state against any place in the world. You see how other people develop their resources in other nations and developing nations. It's really done in a relatively irresponsible fashion. And I tell folks, look, you can care about the earth and you should. You should be an environmentalist. And if you're an environmentalist, you should care about how the work of resource development is done. In fact, a true environmentalist would say, they want the work done in the very best, most responsible jurisdiction available. That's the United States. We have the best rules. We have the best laws. We need to bring that work home. It's good for the planet. It's good for the people. It's good for America.
Congressman, thank you very much for your time. Again, pleasure, and thanks for all that you do on behalf of our producers and farmers. Congressman Nick Begich out of Alaska. Again, thank you.